Welcome to the Reel Rematch, the podcast where we unpack Hollywood's twin films, sometimes cloned on purpose, sometimes by accident, but always in competition. Today's matchup, Jungle Booked. The Jungle Book versus Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, two modern live-action reimaginings of Rudyard Kipling's classic tale, released just 2 years apart. One is a Disney crowd pleaser, packed with spectacle, heart, and cutting-edge visual wonder. The other is a darker, more grounded take exploring identity, danger, and the pull between two worlds. Which film brought the jungle to life more vividly? Which one gave Mowgli the stronger story to inhabit? And which adaptation still rules the law of the jungle today?
Jeff.
Justin?
So today's episode, you and I have at least called it Jungle Booked.
Yes, we have. So we are looking at The Jungle Book, the live-action remake of the classic animated film that was made in 2016, and then the other live-action making of the film, Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle from 2018.
So let's give a prelude to the scorecard that we usually do at the end of each film. Let's, like we always do, focus on the premise.
Sure.
So on the bones of the story, these are almost identical. You've got a human child raised by wolves who must navigate the laws of the jungle, the threat of Shere and the question of where he truly belongs. The divergence is not premise, but tone and interpretation. Purely evaluating these two films on premise, Jeff, I'm going to award a draw.
Alrighty. So in terms of framing this pair of films like we do, these are twin films about the same boy, the same jungle, but two radically different ideas of what the story is for. So the split is like this. Mowgli is Kipling's survival tale, whereas A Jungle Book is that Disney myth adventure style tale. And that distinction matters, obviously. So Mowgli feels like a survival tale because it pushes for the pain, the fear, the injury, the colonial harshness of the time when it's set, and the animal violence, where the jungle is not primarily a playground of wonder, which is traditional in the Disney model. It's that brutal world that Mowgli has to endure and interpret. And Andy Serkis has repeatedly said in multiple interviews, he positioned the film as that darker, more serious take on and of the work and a lot closer to Kipling's original stories rather than Disney's version.
So, I mean, The Jungle Book does feel more mythic. Favreau's film turns the material into a classic studio fable. Identity, belonging, courage, temptation, and destiny, all wrapped in overwhelming visual beauty. And family audience accessibility. It's less interested in reproducing Kipling's severity than in building a polished modern myth from the same source material. And its reception suggests this is exactly the right artistic bet for a global audience. And further to that, to your point, Mowgli to me is like Batman Begins. Like gritty, Nolan-esque, right? Whereas, The Jungle Book is probably not a clean comparison, but it feels more like, Spider-Man.
Yes.
Right? A bit more pop color, again, more sort of like larger sort of like tropes, brighter colors, more accessibility, I think, for a broader audience.
100%. So is there a reason these two came out near to each other?
I mean, Kipling's book has been around for about 120 years at this stage. Studios were strip mining IP, right? In the 2000s and in the 2010s. One, because it made good business sense to do so. Two, they're also up against some of the competition that all the Marvel and DC adaptations were.
We were a peak superhero at that point.
Yeah, I mean, like even, when we looked at Mirror Mirror versus Snow White and the Huntsman, right? Fables and otherwise, anything that was instant IP, also if it didn't cost you anything because it had gone past the age where, you no longer actually had to pay for the right.
Yeah.
Studios were, just getting involved. I mean, I think that it was, really opportunistic of Warner Brothers, though, to think that they could beat the Mouse House, who had done a beloved version of this in an animated form 50 years earlier. But you've got a bit more on this, Jeff. How did these two films come out so closely together?
Well, it's interesting because Warner Brothers had been developing this version from as early as 2012, even going back into late 2011, so well before the release of the film. And they had originally set this film to be released in 2016 at the same time as the Jungle Book live-action remake. But when Disney's was announced, Warner Brothers made the decision to postpone it for 2 years, or at least postpone it at the time. I don't know if the 2 years was chosen at that point, because they were fully aware of what was coming, the history of the Mouse House making this book into a thing and into a film, and what that new one could become. Obviously, they wouldn't forecast exactly the behemoth that the new Jungle Book did become. So that's why they delayed the release of this film. But then 2 years down the track, they were concerned a bit of like what Pan was, in terms of how that was meant to be like this different, darker version of Peter Pan, and what actually happened to that film. So that was a concern of theirs, which is why in the end they just sold the worldwide rights to Netflix, and Mowgli became a Netflix release.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So fascinated. Obviously, one sort of like a breakout cultural phenomenon. The other one was sort of like shuffled off the board when it went to Netflix. But break down the critical, commercial, and audience reception for both of these films.
So as we just said, Jungle Book came first, opened in April of 2016. Mowgli was a Netflix release and came out in November of 2018, but originally was set for 2016. So obviously I can only really look at box office for one of these films, because Mowgli being a Netflix release doesn't have any numbers.
Right.
Now, when I looked this up, I'd completely forgotten how much the Jungle Book did at the box office until I went looking into the data, right? So, and it was a behemoth. It opened wide on 4,028 screens on April the 15th, 2016.
Wow.
Opening weekend, it took 103.2 million and went on to end with 364 million domestically, which is big numbers back then. Internationally, it took another $586.7 million for a worldwide total of 950.7. So we're just shy of $1 billion box office, which is huge. From a budget of 175, it took 5.4x budget for Disney, right? DVD sales made another 47.2 million. So overall, this film has made just shy of $1 billion in terms of revenue for Disney.
And probably made a lot more than that with like residuals and otherwise.
Disney Plus streaming, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So a massive, massive box office success. Now, again, no numbers for Mowgli because it's a Netflix release. And as I said, what would the numbers have been? Like I mentioned previously, if Warner's had actually decided to release this, because they were very, very concerned what would happen to it.
So,
audience numbers? Okay. So, again, unfortunately, it's a tale of one doing good numbers, one not so great. So, The Jungle Book sits at a very impressive 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
7.3 out of 10 on IMDb and a Metacritic score of 77.
Solid.
Unfortunately, Mowgli sits at only 52% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 51 on Metacritic. So the same goes for audience numbers, good scores and a middle-of-the-road score. So Jungle Book's an 86% on the popcorn-o-meter on Rotten Tomatoes. Unfortunately, Mowgli only sits at 51%.
So here's the thing is I'm not going to step on our scorecard now, but I enjoyed both of these films for different reasons. But the one remark that I will have that is clearly illustrated with you running the numbers just like you have is the Jungle Book knew exactly the audience they were going for.
Yes.
I don't think you could say the same thing for Mowgli.
No, and looking at seeing some interviews with Andy Serkis about it is they were aiming for that younger audience, but knew the film wasn't for the youngest of audiences, which the Jungle Book was always. The Jungle Book is your full 4-quadrant film.
Yeah.
Right? It's designed from 8 to 80.
Yeah.
Mowgli and I didn't write this down, but I remember reading it somewhere. I think Mowgli is designed for, Circus said, for people who've maybe started reading slightly darker materials in books as they get older, maybe your 9 to 10 plus age range, right?
I mean, but that's where it starts to get wobbly,
Yeah.
right? Because, just prior to this, we obviously had the burst of, young adult films, right? Like the Twilights, and
Hunger Games and
the Hunger
Playthings.
Games, Divergent, Insurgent, et cetera, et cetera. But all of those films had a love interest.
Yeah.
Right? In this film here, you're making a dark one and it's for this audience, but it's only for, you're already starting to pre-filter your opportunities for audience engagement on this sort of idea, which is a shame because there's a lot to like about Mowgli. And dare I suggest, I think more audiences see this, that actually see that there is a lot of merit in this film, and it's got some really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
But it didn't really know who it was for.
Yeah.
And I think that limited its impact.
Exactly. Yes.
So we usually jump into directors and otherwise, Jeff, but I got to admit, thinking about this, the motif of, a child either being nursed or protected by animals, or a wild human figure who lives among animals before entering society, and the fact that these two films are almost like the intersection of that. They sit between that space between those two concepts and motifs. Those two motifs and otherwise, they've been around forever, right?
Yeah, so we spoke about this briefly before we sat down today, and we looked into it. And you're right, this has been going on for thousands of years, right? So the oldest precursor of this is probably Enkidu from the ancient text Epic of Gilgamesh. So it's not actually a baby raised by wolves in the Mowgli traditional sense, but it's a primordial human who initially lives with animals in the wild before being drawn into human civilization. So that makes it one of the oldest, deepest roots of the broader human among animals idea.
So the most famous, I guess, pre-Kipling example that I could find was Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome. In the Rome foundation myth, the twins are exposed as infants and survive because a she-wolf nurses them. And it's probably the best known, animal-reared child story in Western tradition that I could find pre-Mowgli.
Yeah, it definitely would be. But there's also another strong classical example, which in Greek myth is Atalanta. So she was abandoned as a baby, but she was suckled by a she-bear before later being found by hunters and raised as a human at that point. So again, not identical to Mowgli's full jungle upbringing, but very much part of that mythic family of exposed children being saved by animals. So I love how I'm using the Roman example, being married to an Italian, using the Greek example, being married to a Greek woman. I guess that shows where we look to point our internet searches.
Circle of life, Jeff. Circle of life. So, the only other thing I'll say is that, this whole raised by animals and otherwise, I mean, the other most famous example, and a film that's also been, or a book or a source material that's been made 1,000 times, is Tarzan.
100%.
Right? So Edgar Rice Burroughs, I think, roughly came out 20 years after The Jungle Book. But again, Tarzan's raised by apes, not wolves. So the idea, is a compelling idea that has lasted the test of time. And, we keep revisiting it because, there is something, primal about that. I think, we all have, some form of very base level animal instincts about us. So exploring that and recontextualizing that has proved rich, fertile ground for, filmmakers, novelists and others.
Yes, and I'm sure we'll see more examples of this going through the future, 100%.
So let's get into the directors, Jeff. So I'll start with The Jungle Book.
Okay.
So Jon Favreau, what a career he's had, right? But this film catches him at an interesting point, right? He does Iron Man 2 in 2010.
Yep.
Not my favourite Iron Man, right? Bit uneven.
Probably the weakest of the three.
Probably the weakest of the three, right? Cowboys and Aliens in 2011. Amazing high concept film. but a bust,
Yeah.
a notable bust.
Yes.
Right? He then does a film that I love called Chef in 2014. And it's almost like a redemption film for him. And the story actually has a redemptive arc about someone who, prima facie kind of like sold out, traded away, his sort of like his values, in the face of, overwhelming sort of like commercial pressures and otherwise.
Yeah.
And then goes back to basics in a food truck.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting, Favreau's sort of, life imitating art, imitating
Life.
life.
Yeah.
So then after he does Chef, which was very well received, he does this in 2016.
Yeah.
Huge hit, like you mentioned. And then I think goes even a bit bigger or just as big with the live-action remake of The Lion King in 2019 and is firmly ensconced within the Mouse House.
Well, yeah, and now and then was one of the co-creators of the much-loved Mandalorian. So,
And Mandalorian and Grogu gets released in X amount of months' time. Right?
Yeah, which as we film this is April 2026, so maybe in next month. So come a long way.
So let's jump to Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle.
Yes.
So Andy Serkis directed his first feature, which is a small British film starring Andrew Garfield called Breathe in 2017. He then goes to do this in 2018, followed by Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage in 2019. So I've got to be honest, I've never really followed the career of Andy Serkis that closely other than he's the GOAT when it comes to motion capture performances.
Yep.
Obviously, Gollum trailblazed, how to do this, and I think even inspired the way that James Cameron went about what he was doing for performance capture in the Avatar films and otherwise. Had been a character actor, I think we mentioned on the first twin pair that we did, obviously that small role that he had in The Prestige.
Yes.
And we've seen him as a character actor over the journey. I didn't realise he had directing ambition, and I've got to admit, until he actually did this film, I didn't even realise he actually, has this whole filmmaking aspect to his career. I was aware that he was the director for Venom 2, but it seemingly came out of nowhere, and I didn't pay it much mind. But really interesting, and he's got a very strong visual language.
I think as well, like you spoke about Gollum, but also don't forget he was Caesar in the Planet of the Apes films.
Of course.
As well. So, and his company Imaginarium, which produced this, is known as Performance Capture. So they train and practice, and they're responsible for a hell of a lot of motion capture, particularly, I believe, people who play animals in various different films. I couldn't give you examples off the top of my head, but that's what they're actually known for, or were at the time of this. So,
so the perfect choice to direct a film of this nature.
Yeah, exactly. And now as well, he's also currently in pre-production because he's making 2 Hobbit prequels,
right,
or Lord of the Rings prequels, which are about Gollum again. He's playing Gollum, but he's directing them both. And it's that sequence between when Gollum gets the ring and when Frodo takes it off him in the Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So it's set in that time period. So obviously, as you can see from his film directing back catalogue, he's kind of growing in budget and scope in terms of the films. Not that these are small scope films, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear. And, like you can see how he's earned the right, to do that because, his sequences and his execution of those sequences are super solid.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really good moments in this film. But
I also like how both of these guys are actors turned directors. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, Favreau primarily only directs now, he does cameos. Obviously, he's Happy Hogan in a lot of Marvel films and stuff like that, but he's now primarily a director. But they all were actors more than directors.
Actually, dare I suggest he's probably more of a producer now.
Yes, he does a lot of producing.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I know that he probably directed a few episodes of Mandalorian, right? He produced all of them. But I don't think he's actually directed much. I mean, like, obviously he's done the movie that comes out this year, but I don't think he's actually directed that much since 2019.
Okay. All right.
But you're 100% correct. He started off as an actor. He obviously wrote some scripts or co-wrote some scripts. Then he started to move into directing. Was quite then happy to sort of like turn up in insert cameos here and there.
Yeah.
And now is kind of like more, I think, like world building, world creating, and sort of like bringing things together in a producer capacity.
Yeah.
Quite an amazing career to date, and obviously we still hopefully got another solid 20, 30 years of Favreau.
Yes.
And what he can bring to global audiences. So
Yeah.
Let's jump into key cast, right? Both of these films are stacked.
Oh, man. The ensemble cast in these films is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, The Jungle Book. So, Neel Sethi makes his feature film debut as Mowgli. He won the role after 2,000 kids were auditioned. And the strange thing, he's only done a handful of things since, right?
Yeah.
You've got Bill Murray. What a moment he's having. He does The Monuments Men, The Grand Budapest Hotel, St. Vincent, and has a small role in Dumb and Dumber 2 in 2014. He does Aloha, Rock the Casbah, and the TV special A Very Merry Christmas in 2015. He does this and has a cameo in the all-female cast of Ghostbusters in 2016. So again, this is kind of like peak,
Oh, he doesn't stop working there, man.
Renaissance.
All right.
Right? Well, I mean, he's slowed down in recent years, obviously, because there's probably been some unfortunate bad behaviour on his behalf.
Yes.
But he's had these, just had these moments in his career where he's ascended the highs on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
He's also had sustained success. But this was certainly one of the peaks of his illustrious career.
Yep.
You've also got Ben Kingsley, who is always working.
Yep.
Right? He stars in Exodus, God and Kings, has a role at Night at the Museum 3, Secret of the Tomb in 2014. He's in The Walk, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and Selfless with Ryan Reynolds in 2015. He does this in 2016 and then has a small role in Brad Pitt's Netflix movie, War Machine, in 2017. He cashes checks in between, but nothing else of note.
Right.
So the other cast members I've got in other cast.
Okay.
So I was going to jump over to Mowgli.
Yep.
So Mr. Andy Serkis, you mentioned he was Caesar in Dawn of the Planet of Apes in 2014. Also Supreme Leader Snoke in Star Wars.
Oh, yes, of
Episode
course.
7, The Force Awakens in 2015. Caesar again in War for the Planet of Apes, and Snoke again in Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi in 2017, and then Baloo in this.
There you go.
So we've also got Cate Blanchett. She's in Thor Ragnarok in 2017, lends her voice as Car in this, stars in Ocean 8 in 2018, lends her voice to the How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World in 2019. And then you've got other cast members, which I'll leave to the other category.
All right, because this everything is packed.
So I went a little bit arse about here because I haven't highlighted the biggest characters in Mowgli Legend of the Jungle.
Okay.
Probably because I wanted to go Cate Blanchett, who's an Australian first.
Fair enough.
But Jeff, why don't you talk about the other characters that we do have in Mowgli Legend of the Jungle?
Well, this is where, this is more of a very British version, right?
Mm.
There are a lot of British character actors in here, but we all know these. So obviously number one as Bagheera is Mr. Christian Bale, Batman himself. Even you mentioned that this one is almost like the Batman Begins of the Jungle Books. So again, amazing performances by Bagheera in here. Cate Blanchett, you've got Benedict Cumberbatch in here as Shere Khan, Naomi Harris, who's legendary British film actress. You've got Andy Serkis himself, Eddie Marsan, who's one of those guys who's in pretty much everything. You've got Matthew Rhys, who seems to always play Americans, but is actually British here as the Hunter.
Our boy from A Beautiful Day in the
Neighborhood. Yep, exactly. Tom Hollander, who's always shows up as a good or a bad guy, but as a bad guy again in this. And then Peter Mullen, who plays Keeler, the head of the Wolves, who is probably best known as Ser Jorah in Game of Thrones.
I've also got him down as Jacob Snell in the first. I don't know if he was in the second season, but it was certainly in the first season of Ozark.
Right. Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So massive British cast.
So, incredible casting. Look, I also want to call out the young man or boy at this stage, Rohan Chand, in the biggest role of his career, who plays Mowgli.
He was great. And you know what? Both Mowglis did an amazing job.
This is also the last credit to his name.
Really?
He had very small roles since 2011. Allegedly, he is focusing on his education, attending the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So I think he's due to graduate sort of like this year. So the only thing I wanted to tease out though, Jeff, is Christian Bale, right?
I've heard of him.
So CB to his friends. So he's having a pretty amazing career at this stage. I mean, he's already had an amazing career, but he does The Big Short in 2015. He does this in Vice, where he plays Dick Cheney in 2018. Then he does Ford versus Ferrari alongside Matt Damon in 2019. Doesn't appear again until Thor and Love and Thunder and Amsterdam in 2022, and hasn't really done much since. So I'm going to go out and call it early. It's pretty much the end of his extraordinary run that he's had since bursting onto the scene as Patrick Bateman in American Psycho in 2000.
Well, he's probably, I think the man's earned a break. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And you know what? Like, as you hit that point in life when you start to age, probably the way you start thinking about your career and the roles you're going to have changes.
Yeah, and he's clearly at the point in his career where he can just go, I can pick and choose whatever the hell I want, whenever the hell I want.
Yeah.
So,
fair.
You know, that man's residual checks must be pretty awesome.
Let's jump into other cast for the Jungle Book.
Well, here again, you've got a few, and I mean, obviously Idris Elba as Shere Khan, Lupita Nyong'o as the Mother Wolf, Scarlett Johansson as Kara in this one, Giancarlo Esposito, who's everything, the main man, Christopher Walken, who when I heard his voice, it was just like, that's awesome. Gary Shandling, and then even Jon Favreau shows up doing a couple of minor voices.
I mean, Mowgli, he's running through the jungle. So the only thing, I want to tell you that a couple of things here. So Idris Elba lends his voice talent to this, Zootopia, and Finding Dory, all in 2016.
Wow.
So it's the year of the voice, Mr. Idris Elba. Now, Lupita Nyong'o.
All Disney films as well.
So that was the next point I'm going to make about Lupita, right? Predominantly just working in the Mouse House at this point of her career. She does Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens in 2015, this in 2016, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi in 2017, followed by Black Panther in 2018.
There you go.
So both of them.
Both of them.
Just cashing Mouse House checks.
Why not?
So let's talk about real life inspiration. Right.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle. So Rudyard Kipling's original The Jungle Book stories were actually contained across two separate volumes published in 1894 and 1895.
Right.
Totaling 15 main stories, including 7 that focused on the character of Mowgli. Now, they were heavily influenced by 19th century accounts of wolf children in India.
Okay.
The primary real-life inspiration is believed to be Dina Senichar, a feral child, and apologies I've butchered the pronunciation of that name, a feral child discovered in 1867, living with wolves who walked on all fours and never learned to speak.
Okay.
So the real-life inspiration for the Jungle Book, on the other hand, Jeff, was primarily inspired by the beloved Walt Disney 1967 animated classic.
Yes.
Blending the iconic musical numbers and character dynamics with a more intense and photorealistic adventure style.
Yep.
In this film.
Yep.
So Jeff, could you find an Australian connection from Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle?
Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle. Yes, I think Australia's first lady of cinema, Miss Kate Blanchett, in there as Car. And if you want to do comparisons, I thought her car was better than Scarlett's car. That's my
agree.
take on it.
Agree. I mean, she also had more to do.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely.
But the one thing I will say is that Scarlett's car just comes across as a lot more sultry, whether that was intentional or not. And you know what? I didn't actually think it was appropriate for the character, but like, she's got a great voice.
She does. Yeah.
So, did you find any Australian connection with the Jungle Book, Jeff?
I couldn't find one, but I did want to ask you, does Weta count? Because they did some of the special effects. They're from New Zealand, but we count New Zealand as part of Australia now, don't we?
I think that's right.
Yeah, okay. So every single Kiwi I know is going to kill me after this. No, that's the closest I came was the Trans-Tasman connection.
So, trivia and fun facts.
So there's quite a bit here. There's not a lot, but there's a few interesting scenarios back in this one. So the Jungle Book was shot entirely on sound stages in LA.
Yeah, right.
So there is no real jungle in the film at all.
Okay.
I mean, obviously some of the sets inside that, but it was almost a bit like, now they call it the volume, but similar scenarios setting that up. So it's all green screen done, no actual jungle. And the young kid, both of the young kids barely acted with any real people. It was all tennis balls and special effects stuff. Okay. Whereas Mowgli was shot in the UK, but also in South Africa, which they used to replace India.
Oh.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's where that was filmed. In terms of, okay, let's start with some random little fun facts that I found about both of these films. So there are 2 Easter eggs in the Jungle Book, which Disney likes to put in a lot of its films.
Okay.
The first is, apparently, if you look at the treasure of King Louis, the giant ape, Aladdin's lamp is sitting in the treasure, the pile of treasure.
Nice.
Is there. The second one, which is very much an in-joke, is that just before they meet King Louis, Mowgli finds a cowbell in the monkey palace, and he proceeds to pick it up and shake it, which causes Louis to appear. Now, apparently, this is because of the famous Saturday Night Live cowbell scene with Will Ferrell that Christopher Walken is in, going all the way back to the sketch in 2000.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So have you seen the sketch with the more cowbell
where
literally he says, Christopher Walken's character, the record producer, says, I have a fever and the only prescription is more cowbell. So that's apparently an in-joke Easter egg there, which awesome. Is for crazy film TV nerds like you and me. That's that shit we live off, right?
Yeah.
So most of the animals in the movie are based on animals found in the Indian subcontinent.
Okay.
But in the Jungle Book, to make Mowgli appear physically disadvantaged, they actually made the animals at least 30% bigger than normal to actually appear like they are looming over him.
Okay.
So that was done as a sort of intentional purpose. Disney's preferred, and I think you may have similar note, Disney's preferred pronunciation of the boy's name is Mowgli. Rudyard Kipling himself said it should rhyme with cow, so it should be Mowgli. Going back to the text. So even though he's become Mowgli basically in general vernacular, Mowgli, yes, it actually as it's written, right? So like you said, a bit of a remake, but obviously of the beloved 1967 version, animated version. Now, Favreau set out on purpose to not make it another musical, but said he couldn't help himself because one of his favourite songs is Bare Necessities. So
who doesn't love that song?
Yeah, exactly. And the last fact I have for the Jungle Book, in the Japanese version of this, the 2016 version, the actor who dubs King Louis, who is Shinichi Ishihara, is the same actor who dubbed King Louis in the 1967 animated version.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, so he's still alive and they got him to do it again.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in the Jungle Book stories, Mowgli is said to mean frog, a nickname given because he's hairless compared with the animals around him. Rudyard Kipling later said the name is basically one he invented, not a real word from any language he knew.
There you go.
So I just wanted to start off with that. Look, in terms of fun facts, I think you've done a great job articulating some of the trivia. I've only got a few things to add.
Mm-hmm.
All three of director Favreau's children have voice roles in the movie. His son Max voiced a wolf cub, while his two daughters Brighton, Rose, and Madeline voiced Grey, another wolf cub, and Jon Favreau himself was the voice of one of the pygmy hogs.
Yeah, right. Yes, I did find out.
So it was the first movie adaptation of Rudyard Kipling's novel The Jungle Book to win an Academy Award, which in the case of this movie won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects.
Fair enough too.
It was only 1 year shy from the 50th anniversary from the animated classic that Walt Disney released in 1967.
Yep.
Now, here's something that's going to spin you the hell out. Director Jon Favreau made his crew watch Beverly Hills Chihuahua as inspiration for designing and creating King Louis's temple.
What the fuck?
I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if that's bullshit or not, but I loved it so much I had to include it.
How does Beverly Hills Chihuahua translate to a temple in the middle of fucking India?
I know.
That makes no sense.
So Favreau said that they used the other Disney animated film Bambi, which came out in 1942, as one of the influences of this film. And during production, while Disney added in Thumper, who was a little rabbit, and was also a new character for that film since he was not in the original book. So when Favreau added Grey the Wolf Pup into this film, he mentioned in the commentary that him and his team called Grey their very own Thumper.
There you go. That's nice.
So the only other thing I wanted to say is that the animal characters were motion captured and performed live on set by puppeteers from the Jim Henson Company. For the on-set performances, Jim Henson's Creature Shop built elaborate life-size puppets to act alongside Mowgli and serve as eye lines.
Oh, there you go. I must have seen a different note when I said the kids basically didn't act with anyone. So, okay. I did have one point that I had missed before with regards to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tom Holland auditioned for the role of Brother Wolf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But Mr. Jack Rayner ended up with it. But, yeah. So, that would have been interesting. Would have been pre-Spider-Man for him, obviously.
The other thing I was going to mention on this as well, and I noticed it when I was watching the film, and it was interesting because Favreau goes on to direct the live-action version of
The Lion King.
The Lion King.
Yes.
3 years later. But Shere Khan seems to draw a lot of inspiration from Scar.
Yes.
In The Lion King, right? So the scene where Mowgli is almost trampled by the stampede of water buffaloes as Shere Khan looks down from atop a cliff is very similar to the scene where Scar looks down from a cliff after dropping Mufasa to his death in a wildebeest stampede, right? And then where all the animals gather for their climatic confrontation with Shere Khan, there is a shot of a wild boar and an Indian mongoose next to each other, a nod to Pumbaa the warthog and Timon the meerkat.
Ah, yes. Yes, the Hakuna Matata animals. Okay. See, I had something similar to that I was going to mention when we talked about Mowgli's facts. So in both films, Shere Khan dines at the end of the film in a different way to how the actual book is.
Mm-hmm.
The actual story in the Jungle Book, in Kipling's stories, Shere Khan dies by falling into a narrow canyon, and at that point, Brother Wolf, Akela, and Mowgli incite a water buffalo stampede. That then is how Shere Khan dies.
Oh.
Right? That's from the stories, the book.
Yeah.
Obviously, the two various ways are dies in the fire and then dies in the circle with the elephants before Mowgli actually kills him, right? So, and again, I wrote this as my own note. I wonder if no one wanted to do that because that's how Mufasa dies in The Lion King. And it's a very, again, going back to the 1990 version, it's a held on to scenario like you just mentioned there. So that's probably the reason why they didn't choose to keep one of the original endings for the death of Shere Khan.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Which then makes you wonder, did they get the death of Mufasa from Kipling's original story?
I mean, unanswerable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Good shout.
Mm.
Good shout. So I think we've wrung every drop of juice out of the trivia for Jungle Book. What have you got from Mowgli outside of that first point?
Yeah, so a couple of points here. We look at casting alternatives here, but I have director alternatives.
Oh,
So
okay. Great.
So Steve Kloves, who's a famous screenwriter, his daughter wrote Mowgli.
Okay.
He was originally up for directing this. Alejandro Inarritu was in talks at one point to direct it.
Okay.
Before he moved on, and then Ron Howard was going to do it with Brian Grazer producing.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah. So, so that was really interesting. Inarritu's version would have been, I think, darker than this one.
Yeah.
Let's see, about what if the Revenant, but in the jungle? Baloo would have been an entirely different character.
Yeah, that would have been,
dark as hell. So, yeah, the little facts I've got on this one is that so this is the first Jungle Book tale to strictly stick to more to the Kipling stories, like you said, the 7 stories that he's got.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also the first Jungle Book film to ever give Shere Khan a limp, which is actually in the story. So the history of him being burnt and attacked by humans before, and that's why he has the limp, had never been done before. Andy Serkis made the decision to have all the animals animated in a way that more aligned with the features of their human actors.
Okay.
So they're a bit more human-like.
Mm-hmm.
The film apparently went quite a bit over budget, and at one point, Warner Brothers brought in Alfonso Cuarón to help keep it on track and finish up with Andy Serkis.
Okay.
The original title of this film was Jungle Book Origins.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was called originally. And the last...
So isn't that interesting? Because that's another parallel to Batman Begins, right?
Yeah.
Like
Jungle Book Origins.
Yeah. I mean, it was clearly that was kind of the intent.
That's right.
It just didn't get the audience bit.
Yeah. And then my last note is, as you can see, there is no King Louis or sequence in here. That's because King Louis is actually invented by Disney. So like you said about the original character, King Louis was actually invented by Disney.
So they own the rights to the character.
So they own the rights to the character, hence why there's no King Louis, because he's not in Kipling's writings. He's only in the Disney animated film, which is why he's not in this film.
Jeff, awesome research. I've only got 2 things to add.
Yep.
There are characters who were only made for this movie.
Yep.
First one is Boot, the white wolf cub.
Yep.
And Mowgli's best friend. And John Lockwood, played by our boy, Matthew Rhys.
Yep.
The English hunter named after Kipling's father. So
there you go.
The original book did feature a hunter, but that hunter was named Udeo? I don't know how to pronounce that properly. But so there's the hunter, different name.
Okay.
In the book. Just like the Disney version that we've been speaking about, the elephants and monkeys never talk. In the original book,
yes,
both talk.
Oh, right.
So there you go.
Okay.
So, Jeff, let's get into either best shots or sequences.
Okay.
Right? I mean, look, I will just say that Favreau and his team making the Jungle Book, it's a visual cornucopia of delight. I mean, absolutely amazing, photorealistic. I felt, look, I'm going to be honest, I didn't realise there was an Indian jungle, right? But they bring the Indian jungle, to life, the characters, the detail, just some of the framing, the resolution they get. I mean, it's truly a visually splendiferous film.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It is truly a delight to watch. I mean, this is why you put your hard earned over the counter to actually go see a big film in a cinema, right?
Yeah.
And so, great filmmaking, and, the technical expertise on display. I mean, like you see that budget up on the screen. It's incredible.
You can see where all $175 million went. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazingly well done.
So, so that segues into one of my favourite shots. So the opening jungle sweep into the bare necessities world, right, where the camera glides through a lush, digitally realised jungle that feels tactile and mythic at the same time. It sells the film's biggest achievement straight away, right, where the world is feeling both storybook and photoreal. And that's really a statement of intent, obviously, by the director, as I mentioned. There's also, I would say, there's that sequence where cars, sort of coil sequence, and it feels trippy and, it feels that you are being almost like hypnotized, and the way, Scarlett Johansson's voice and the way the Sethi is moving, it was just, eerie, memorable. It was like, she's only in the film for a handful of minutes.
Yeah.
Right? But leaves an indelible impression afterwards. And I always feel that if I'm having something like that etched into my memory, they've done a great job.
Yeah.
So I thought that sequence with Car was spot on.
Yeah.
I thought, super, super solid. I'd also say probably the last one for me is towards the end season. So towards the end of the movie and the end scene where sort of the jungle's on fire and all hell's breaking loose, and I mean that's just amazingly realised. What a sequence! It's like I don't know, you sort of you feel it, right? It couldn't get any more dramatic. The stakes couldn't get any higher. Again, the setup and the way they execute that, flawless.
It was amazing, yeah. And again, because that red flower conversation has become more and more and more and more prominent, and then all of a sudden, whoosh. You're in the middle of that intent. You can feel the heat, essentially, during that final sequence.
Absolutely.
So, amazing. Definitely amazing.
Did you have anything else?
No, for me, the whole jungle was really, really well done in this film. And the way they realised it, set it up, because it was playful as well. Yes, it does have, because it's that mythic adventure like we've talked about. The jungle in this one was very playful.
Yeah.
The whole bee sequence, cutting down the honeycomb, all of that kind of stuff was just fantastic.
So let's jump over to Mowgli.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say the opening with the Wolfpack / jungle initiation, those early scenes, right? So it's not just a single shot, but the scenes and sequences. I think that's amazing. It kind of sets the tone in terms of how does, a human child try and coexist and compete and live in, a world of animals, right?
Yep.
And I think it's exceptionally well done because you buy it. And if the audience isn't buying that scene and the fact that this kid is almost like a little human wolf or other, the rest of the movie falls apart.
Yeah.
So I think they did a great job at really establishing that and sort of the bona fides of the character and, get you to suspend disbelief in the way that, all films try to.
Yep.
So really well done. So I love those sequences. I'd also say, there's other sequences that I really sort of enjoy throughout the film and otherwise, but it's more the tone, right?
Yeah.
Versus any one specific scene that I can really sort of pull to. I think the elephant scene.
At the end? Mm-hmm. You mean the final battle scene? Oh, because it's got that it's a battle sequence.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a tournament sequence.
Yeah.
It's not just it's a gladiator sequence.
A gladiator. That's the way to characterize.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because it is, you're surrounded, you're there. Only the people inside that circle are only one of them's coming out.
Yeah.
Right? And it's fantastically realised. Again, it's set up and pay off because, it's the whole finding of the horn, speaking to the old master elephant, getting him involved with the rest of the elephants and the way it all comes together.
Yeah.
And then Shere Khan basically being called out for what a prick he is and facing the consequences.
Yeah.
That was great, the way that was done.
Yeah, and it's good as well. And even though, I like Matthew Reese as well. It's great to see his comeuppance in that scene. But yeah, I mean, again, just kind of the scene or scenes around that versus a single shot, I think exceptionally well realised. That's all I really had.
Yeah, I think
that jumped out.
I think for both of these, the jungle in itself as a character And I think both filmmakers have gone to make sure the jungle itself is a character, right? Because you have to. You need to have the jungle as part of the film. And I think they've both done a great job on it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. In summary, visually, I guess, you'd say that the Jungle Book gives you more wow moments.
Yes.
Right? But Mowgli, it's more the kind of, sort of like, darker, anguished, strange soul of the jungle.
Yeah.
But it's more of a vibe.
Yeah.
Right? But there's just so many wow moments in the Jungle Book that it's just like, this is great. To your point, I've got $175 million washing over me.
Yeah.
It's all there up on screen. There's nothing I'm saying that I'm not liking, and it's just so exceptionally well executed.
Yeah.
So now let's jump into the scorecard, Jeff.
Alrighty.
To determine who won the rematch.
Okay.
So we've already kicked off with premise. We said that was a draw.
Yep.
My first category.
Go for it.
Fidelity to spirit.
Okay.
So if you're talking about Kipling's harsher, stranger, more bruising sensibility, Mowgli is clearly reaching closer to that darker register. Andy Serkis explicitly framed it as more serious and closer in tone, as you mentioned, to Kipling than prior family-friendly versions. Disney, I'm looking at you. So for that category, Jeff, I award the category to Mowgli.
I think I have to agree with that one. Definitely. All right, so let's look at concept execution, which we discussed a bit. So Favreau's film is simply the more controlled and the complete piece of filmmaking, okay? It knows exactly what it is. It's the mythic family adventure. It's got the danger, the warmth, the humour. It's got all the spectacle in there, and it's all working to the same register.
Mm-hmm.
As its critical reception, obviously huge worldwide box office, reflect how well it landed. So we have to give concept execution to the Jungle Book.
Agreed. So next category is atmosphere. So Mowgli has a heavier, more threatening atmosphere. Its jungle feels less enchanted and more punishing. Less storybook and more survivalist. That mood is one of the film's real distinguishing strengths, even for critics who found the overall result uneven. I'm awarding atmosphere to Mowgli.
Alrighty. So let's look at emotional accessibility. The Jungle Book, in this case, is far more emotionally legible and inviting because it's the coming-of-age arc, the animal relationships, and the tonal balance make it easier to invest in from a very broad audience. We already said this is a full four-quadrant picture, whereas Mowgli often feels more severe than moving in a sense. So emotional accessibility has to go to the Jungle Book.
Agreed. Next category, visual achievement. Jungle Book. This is the decisive category, Jeff. Favreau's film, as you know, is widely praised for setting a new CGI benchmark, while Mowgli drew much more mixed response to its slow motion capture and creature design. And I was saving one extra scene for this category, the visual achievement, just because it feels like one of the most Disney aspects of the film. And that's where Mowgli is helping Bill Murray,
Baloo,
as Baloo, get all the honey.
Yeah.
Like that feels like the most Disney scene and visuals in it.
Yeah.
You can almost put that in as a ride or like a carnival game at a Disney theme park and not have it feel out of place.
Yeah.
But yeah, visual achievement. I mean, again, what an incredible series of achievements or complete holistic achievement.
Yeah.
The Jungle Book really was.
All right.
What's your next category?
Okay, so animal characterization, very important in these two films. Baloo, Bagheera, Kaa, and Shere Khan all feel cleaner and more immediately usable as characters in the Disney version with the Jungle Book. Mowgli has ambition, but its animal portrayals can feel slightly caught between realism, motion capture performance, and uncanny design, which, as we mentioned, is a deliberate choice by Serkis. So in this case, we're giving it to the Jungle Book.
So my next category is darkness/threat.
Okay.
I'm kind of putting my thumb on the scale here.
Yes.
So this is where Serkis's version earns its place. It's more violent, more traumatic, more willing to let the jungle feel cruel rather than magical. For viewers wanting the rougher edge of the material, it has the advantage. I'm giving darkness/threat category to Mowgli.
Fair enough too. So let's look at rewatchability as the next category. So Favreau's film is the easier return visit. Obviously, it's cleaner storytelling, stronger tonal confidence, and much, much more family-friendly. Whereas Mowgli is more interesting to discuss than to really revisit. So we have to give rewatchability to The Jungle Book.
Fair. So overall impact, Jeff?
It's not even
close, right?
No.
Jungle Book was a major critical and commercial success, grossing almost $1 billion worldwide, while Mowgli ended up sold to Netflix. After release date delays and received mixed reviews, overall impact, The Jungle Book. So, Jeff, break down the scorecard.
Alrighty, so a draw, 1. Premise. Seems to be a common thing for a draw, but also part of the reason why we're here. The Jungle Book, 6 to Mowgli's 3, probably the closest we've had in our scorecard. But in the scheme of things, who run the rematch? It's The Jungle Book.
It's The Jungle Book. That was a really enjoyable pairing. I did enjoy both of those films.
Yes, I did too.
So it was a nice little antidote to, I think, some of the previous episodes where maybe we haven't enjoyed both films as much as each other.
Yes.
So that was nice and refreshing. So anything you'd like to say before we give a prelude to next episode, Jeff?
No, I think that's it for now. Obviously, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on all the socials.
Until next time, Jeff.
Thank you, Justin. Thanks, mate.